The problem: you are using the wrong bait choices to catch crappies. My video will help you solve the problem. Which to use, the minnow or the jig, and when. Let's find the solutions to increase your odds for success when it comes to catching more crappies. First, you need to understand the seasonal patterns of crappies that changes behaviors and feeding habits. Let me quickly break this down for you. Here's what I do. I break each angling year into 10 seasonal time periods that, for the most part, affects behavior and feeding patterns. Now, I live in PA, so ice out is where I start the new year all over again with the pre-spawn behavior and feeding pattern. Now, let's take a look. After ice out, number one, the pre-spawn behavior. Okay, so during the pre-spawn, I'm fishing deeper water, 9 to 14 feet. And generally, it's this time of the year that the water is still very cold and you will find crappies still scattered, sluggish, but on a heavy feeding pattern due to a more dormant, non-active behavior from winter. And I find that at this time of the year, in cold water, minnows work better than jigs. Number two, the spawn. As the water warms, male crappies will begin to move to the shallows to build nests, and the females will stay in deeper water waiting for warmer water temperatures, which triggers the spawn. It is at this time I switch to jigs to catch crappies. Here's the why. As the water temps rise, the males become very aggressive. They will strike at almost anything that comes near the nest, where spawning females will lay their eggs. Jig fishing at this point becomes much more productive than fishing with minnows. All you're going to do by using minnows is burn through them, constantly rebaiting. And like everything else, minnows are becoming expensive. And lately, there has been a shortage of good minnows, at least in my area. Now, it's important to note, if you tip your jig with a maggot, you will have much better results. You have to keep the jig moving. Use a slow retrieve and keep it off the bottom. You can use a light bobber if you like, but having a direct feel to the strike is why I don't like to be using a bobber. You will get a much better hook set without the bobber. Now, most of your hookups will be TDC, that's top dead center. And I usually can get between 9 to 15 crappies before I have to refresh my maggot. Number three, the post-spawn behavior. I still use jigs, and here's why. Once the females have spawned, they put on the feed bag and become heavy feeders. The water continues to warm, and crappies are still very aggressive. If we look together 4 and 5, early and midsummer behavior, now, as the lake continues to warm, the crappies will seek cooler and deeper water, and you don't find them as much in the shallows, and the big schools of crappies will become much smaller. This is when I begin to use minnows again. And even though in Pennsylvania you're permitted to use 3 rods, I only use 2. 1 rod rigged with a minnow and the other rigged with a jig tipped with a maggot. Now my presentation is a couple of feet off the bottom and I wind drift, covering lots of real estate. And the point of this is that crappies will tell you what they prefer, the minnow or the jig. And this is the unpredictability of the species, because one day they might choose minnows over jigs, and the next day it's jigs over minnows. One thing I have learned, you can't force their hand. They kind of decide. Moving on to number 6, late summer. In my opinion, this is by far one of the most difficult time periods for most anglers to catch crappies. I'm getting ahead. We'll see. He stopped hitting.
Welcome to the world of fishing.
Here's the why. The lake is heating up. Vegetation is at its peak. Algae blooms are flaring up, which is depleting oxygen levels. And the lake is in dog days and getting ready to turn over. And it becomes hard to keep minnows alive. So, out of practicality, I returned to jig fishing and deep, cooler water. Now I'm in 12 to 20 feet, cover lots of water, and the action won't be hot and heavy, but if you stay at it, one by one, you'll find the crappies.
Okay, this is a little better. Finally, we're catching some bigger crappies, and that's a good thing. It just takes a while to find them. Boy, it's been rough this year, finding nicer crappies. I mean, it's not spectacular, but it's good fillet fish. So, in the live well you go.
They are very spread out at this point and trying to find their comfort zone as they await the cooling effects of number 7, early fall. Early fall, I'm still using jigs and the waters are beginning to cool down. Now, by number 8, mid-fall, the lake is in transition and the crappies begin to prepare for winter. The feeding activity will increase, and my choice at this point is one rod with a minnow, the other with a jig. I still wind drift until I find them. And this leads me into number 9, late fall pattern. Now, if you are an archer, you were probably in a tree stand waiting for your buck. You know, I do both, so I pick and choose my days. But at this point, I return to primarily using minnows and wind drifting. When I find them, I'll stop, anchor, and work the area with the jig. I can do this until nature in winter decides to put a lid on the lake. And at that point, I cut up my buck, make deer bologna, drag out the ice fishing gear, and get ready for the winter fish. So there you have it when it comes to the controversy of which is better, the minnow or the jig. I don't look at it that way. They both are excellent. They both have their place. I use both, but the trick is knowing when to abandon one method for the other and having the knowledge to know when to do it. That pretty much sums it up. Keep in mind that fishing conditions can change from lake to lake. There are no hard, fast rules when it comes to using minnows or jigs to catch crappies. For me, using jigs is my preferred method most of the time. Whichever you decide to use as bait, give the jig a chance, and don't forget to tip it with a maggot. Let me know what works best on your favorite lake, the minnow or the jig. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm Mr. R. This is the Rondinelli Project. And until next time, get out there, have some fun, catch some fish, and maybe we'll see each other on the water. For now, we gone.